If my income is a bit confusing, that's just because of the accounting methods I use, but this is what I earned in the past 3 years. How can I afford to homeschool? What do I do that allows me to homeschool, especially as a single mom? Well, here's the answer. I have built a business that has multiple income sources, and we're only going higher from here. But this doesn't really help you. I saw on Instagram, there's a creator who goes around asking people with really nice houses and cars what they do for a living. One man owned an asphalt or concrete company. How does that help me? Because I'm not going out to start an asphalt company. I want to know, how in the world did he even get the thought to do something like that? Did he have help along the way? How did he buy that first initial truck? What risks did he have to take, if any? Was it ups and downs? How long did it take? So that's what I want to share with you all today, because again, knowing what my income sources are can't really help you. A few of these things you can definitely and should replicate, but it will help you to know how I got here, what my thought process was like. So I'm going to tell you how I got here, not so you can replicate it, but to kind of demystify that process. It will just put you at an advantage to know how someone else got there instead of just like what they do. All right, are you ready for this? Let's go back. Put on your headphones, get ready, settle in. This is going to be a bit of a story. At the time I'm filming this, it's 2023. In about 2017, I just noticed something. I simply noticed that if I kept working as a teacher, my income would be capped. I looked at all these other fields. I considered gaining new skills, and I still saw that everyone who worked a job, their income was capped. The highest paid things I was seeing was around $250. So even though that is an excellent salary, I still just noticed, well, your income is capped. And that's not a bad thing, because lots of people, especially like government workers, you can work your whole life, you work those stair steps up, and then you have a higher income. But just for me, I said, I think I can reach that income sooner than 15, 20 years out. Specifically, I did the math to save for my children's college funds. I had 2 kids. Let's say I had 15, 16 years to save money to, number one, pay for them to go to college, pay for them to have a house or a down payment on a house, because that's what people of certain wealth do. And I said, oh, there's no way, even if my income doubled, there was no way I would be able to realistically save for their college, get them a house, and also do all this traveling, put them on sports teams, send them to summer camp. And oh gosh, if I wanted private high school, ain't no way. So I had that epiphany in 2017, and I started to form a plan. Now, I will say that this plan changed over time, and I revisited my plan every few months. I revisited my plan as I learned more about creating higher income source. The first thing I decided to do was get a little bit more serious about my Etsy shop. So I was selling children's clothing that I was sewing by hand. I opened my own website so that I could get 100% of the profit instead of Etsy taking a chunk of the profit. And I started to look into manufacturing. Now, here's something that sometimes people don't tell you. I got a lump sum payment of money, and I used that lump sum payment of money to pay off all my debts. Now, that didn't do anything like financially. It didn't make a big financial shift in my life, but what it did, it was create a lot of peace. It created a lot of peace so that I was in a mental state where all I have to do now, I'm debt free except for my student loans. See, I didn't have a car payment anyway. For me, it simply allowed me the mental space so that when I sat down at night, when I was finished teaching, I had some time to say, okay, what should I do? Now, that may look different for different people. Not everyone will get a lump sum payment, but it could look like you filing for bankruptcy, because that's also what I could have done, right? Or you could not have any debt, which a lot of people don't. Next, I took on another job that I could do on the weekends. This job had the potential to earn a lot more money, but I did not get paid for it within the first 6 months. And that was managing my sister, who is a YouTuber. But the reason I was able to say yes to that is because I had a full-time income working as a teacher. After some time, I took a calculated risk and developed an exit plan and quit my job. Again, emphasis on calculated. I talked a couple videos back about how I took a leave of absence from work, because you can't just in all jobs quit your job and expect to have the job be back and waiting for you. I took a leave of absence. I said, okay, if this 1 year goes okay, then I'll keep doing this. If not, I have a job to come back to. So key word here is calculated risk. Now, some people say, oh, well, you had your sister who was an influencer, and so not all of us have that. Those people will never, and if that is your mindset, you better change it right now, because you will never be successful. You'll never be successful with that attitude that, oh, so-and-so had this handed to them. And what they don't know and what they don't see is the differences between themselves and someone who so-called has something handed to them. Now, I will admit that, yes, my sister obviously was a YouTuber, but number one, this was in the early-ish, not early, but this is in the early days of influencer marketing, where it wasn't as big as it is now. Like, now you see influencer ads everywhere. Back then you didn't. She was just getting started. She was getting paid like a couple $1,000s. So it wasn't like a huge lucrative thing. It really blew up in these past few years. And I had to actually do market research on influencer marketing to see, is this really something that experts are predicting is going to blow up? I am not the only family member or friend who my sister asked to manage her. I was the only one who eventually said yes. Also, this was not something that I wanted to do at all. Not interested in marketing at all. Did not align with my values and my teaching and veterinary animal, heart. This is not something that you find like that joy and pleasure in every day. So it's not just a matter of, oh, she knew somebody. No, there are character traits behind that decision, and also skills. I had to have people skills, interpersonal skills. You have to be able to learn very quickly, and you have to be able to learn on your own. So I had to do a lot of my own research. You have to be able to take direction, which a lot of people can't do. I had to humble myself and listen to my big sister tell me, do this, do that, right? So there's a lot of characters there, character traits that a lot of people won't do. And again, this was something I was totally uninterested in, but I saw it as a segue. I said, well, I don't want to be a agent, manager, what is that? But I had a goal in mind, and I said, you know what? This can be a stair step. Also, my sister had to have the mind to look to hire a family member, because she was being managed by an individual, and she had the mindset to say, well, you're not doing that much that someone that I could train could do. And so why instead don't I hire someone in my family to do this, and therefore will keep all the money in the family? So that's another thing that was a big factor in this. It's just having that community mindset, and it really matters the people who are around you. My decision was also helped along by having social capital. I'm not saying that I have wealthy friends or family members at all, but I did have connections. I have friends. I have family members. I have family members who would let me sleep on their couch. So I knew there was no way, even if I failed really badly at this, I'm not going to be homeless out on the streets. I'm going to go stay at my aunt's place. I'm going to stay at my sister's place. I'm going to ask my dad for help. That social capital didn't really help much in terms of money, like receiving money, but it just allowed me to be able to take that calculated risk. Allowed me to say, well, look, if this all fails, we're not going to starve. So having that good relationship with family members is so key. Having good relationship with friends. Some people burn their bridges. You don't have any family or friends you can rely on because of your actions. Now, some people just don't have that because of their situation in life. But again, this is not me having wealthy friends, wealthy family. This is simply having normal human relationships, positive human relationships. See, the society wants to tell you you can hustle hard and do it all on your own. Number one, why would you want to do that? Number two, that's not necessarily the case. Like, I can sit up here and say, yeah, I did this on my own because of course, I've done a lot of the work, but that doesn't mean that there weren't people who, whether they were supporting me directly or indirectly, or just by them existing, helped. I had lent money to family in the past, no questions asked, not trying to get the money back. So that kind of is like me depositing into my social capital. Of course, I'm not thinking that at the time, but like just having those good relationships with people allowed them to reciprocate. Also, my friend group who are about my age, we would be Zelling and Venmoing money back and forth to help each other. So it's like, hey girl, I need $20.75 because I have some payments coming in that are each $3. My bank account is at $0. And if those things hit, I'm going to be hit with $30, bank overdraft fees. And so then my bank account is going to be like negative 200 something bucks, right? All because you didn't have $9. So these are the type of relationships that I have with my friends, so we can talk to each other and we're all rooting for each other. So we're like, yeah, girl, of course I'm going to send you that $10. And then of course, like when my check clears, I'm going to give it back to you. At that point of time, this was 2018, I had replaced my teaching salary with 3 sources of income. My YouTube channel, selling children's clothing, and managing my clients. So those 3 part-time things together formed my 1 full-time job. So overall in that year, I was kind of chilling, like learning how to be a better manager, because that was like that was the highest paying thing. Learning how to try to be more consistent on YouTube, trying to figure out the children's clothing business, if I should keep it or get rid of it, or how to automate it, etc. Okay, 2019, I said, okay, I've been doing this and now it's time to level up. My kids at the time were 4 and 3. The problem was I didn't have money for 2 daycares. I forgot to say I had dramatically lowered my expenses in order to be able to live off of those 3 income sources. That included moving from an $1,800 townhome to a $1,300 apartment. Here's a quick tip that I like to do. Move to the cheapest apartment in the best neighborhood, or the cheapest apartment in your dream neighborhood. So although I was giving up all that space, I was in my dream neighborhood, so I was good. So I had the problem of having 2 kids, needing more time to just get that business off the ground. I knew I could at least increase my income by $20,000 or $30,000 if I had time to do a website, to reach out to clients, to do some other things, to put some things kind of on automation. Like even creating templates for emails where I could just quickly copy and paste. I needed time to do that, and that is very hard with a 3 and 4-year-old. So my sister gave me the idea, put a PUA in school. I was already homeschooling her. I had also already registered her as a homeschooler for the upcoming year, just because I wanted to. In Maryland, if a child is turning 5 by September 1st, you can either decide to put them in kindergarten or wait another year. And in a PUA's case, I would have waited. The cutoff date, I believe, is September 1st. A PUA's date that she was supposed to be born was like the 2nd or 3rd week of September. But instead, she was born in August. And it just so happens that she was born in time so that she could go to school when she was just turning 5. So she was the youngest person in the grade. But if you wait 1 more year, instead of your child being the youngest person in their grade, they'll now be the oldest person in that next grade. Anyway, so that's how it ended up being, that although a PUA technically went into kindergarten in 2019, so I just didn't count that year because it was so messed up, her going to school, getting behind, even in a very good school district in Howard County, and then the pandemic and me just kind of chilling. So I really started her as if she would be 6 starting in kindergarten instead of a baby at 4. So if you're ever wondering, if you're ever looking back like, wait, how is your child in the 3rd grade? I thought you started in this year. That is why. Okay, I went off a bit on a tangent, but the point there is I didn't want to put my child in school. I'm a core homeschooler. I know what goes on in schools. And yes, some of those bad things that I knew were going to happen happened. Some of those negative socialization things happened. But I just thought, and I was given advice by my late uncle. He said, if there's ever a situation where you're fighting like your moral compass, and it's not anything like morally wrong, like it's really not something bad, but you're fighting your values and you don't ease up on your values a little bit in order to help the greater situation, then you're not as smart as I thought, Akiba. And that is what he said to me. And I took that like, oh, I'm smart. So I kept just thinking to myself, it would be a very unsmart thing to do, to suffer and keep suffering and not building your business, all because you didn't want to put your child in school for a couple months. Like a couple months of doing something you don't want to do compared to being able to homeschool them for the rest of their career. That makes no sense. I was at that point where I just knew if I had those 3 months of me just working for 8 hours straight, I knew that I would be increasing my income and I would be able to homeschool them for the rest of their career. So it would be very foolish of me to say, no, I'm hardcore homeschool, I'm just going to suffer through it. My sister was also the one who gave me the idea that you don't have to keep them in school the whole year, just put them in for a couple months. As it happened, she ended up staying until like right after the new year, but I was ready by December. Like by December, I was like, we're good. All I needed was September, October, November, and December. I took those 4 months. I built that business up. I did some of the things I needed to do in order to make it make more income. And now I was ready, like I had more money and I was ready for them to be able to come home. And then I think in February, the pandemic hit anyway. Apiwe was a little bit apprehensive about coming home. The whole like, why am I homeschooled thing? My friends are, you know, they're at school. And then guess what, Apiwe? Everyone's homeschooled. So it took the like deschooling process down for me because that 1 month was hard. Also, all the money that came into the business, I put right back into the business. So I did not say, oh, look, I have more money, so I'm going to go out and get like a $2,000 a month rent. Like, no. I was like, great, I have money, stacking it up, back into the business. I did not take any sort of salary. I also became a much better budgeter, and I budgeted everything, and I stuck to my $3,000 a month budget. So I was living on $36,000 a year, although I was bringing in more. In 2021, 2022, I added more income sources. So more on the affiliate marketing, more on my own brand deals, things like that. And now we're here, 2023, road to $1 million. Just kidding. Road to 500,000. I'm not going to be unrealistic. I set realistic goals. And so I know that some of my income sources I can double or triple if I focus in. I'm at that same turning point where, okay, I'm making this amount of money and I want to get here. I know what to do. I can see it, but I'm a little bit drowning. You know, my rent in California increased all the way up to, the latest increase would have been $4,200. That's how much someone is paying for my apartment right now. And so I just thought, let me stop right now, reset. Maryland is not the cheapest state to be in. It's one of the more expensive. But I knew that at least I could get a nice area, live in a nice area that I like for half the cost. So basically I'm in my period of time where I'm just sitting, I'm homeschooling, I'm thinking, and I'm putting plans into action so that I'll have more sources, more passive sources of income so that I can increase my income from brand deals as well. And that's it. That is how I made my money. Thank you for 500 likes. I don't know what, that last video got a lot of likes. Now let's say if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'll come out with another video in 3 more days.